Running any restaurant, anyone can tell you, is always pretty heavy hands-on endeavor that if you want to make sure it's successful, you got to make sure you're present. But at the same time, in order for us to continue to grow, looking at refining systems, operations, and just trying to increase guest count year over year for every single location that we've got.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, this is Max Pittman from WriteForMe, and you're listening to another episode of the Business Ninjas podcast. We meet the experts who are making things happen and scaling their businesses. And today we're talking about MyBurger with Patrick Cattoor, who is the Director of Operations at MyBurger. Patrick, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, Max, for having me.
So MyBurger, I'm already hungry and already know what I want for dinner. But MyBurger is in the fast casual food space. And you guys are not new to this space whatsoever, been around for 19 years, since 2004. I'm definitely excited to dive into what's going on at MyBurger. But before we jump into the organization itself, our Business Ninjas community is built of entrepreneurs, executives, sales and marketing leaders. So as the Director of Operations at MyBurger, can you tell the Business Ninjas community just a little bit about yourself, your role, and some of the things you're focused on?
I'm focused on trying to keep the company going on the day-to-day. So we've got 8 locations and a food truck, and requires me to wear quite a few different hats. And running any restaurant, anyone can tell you, is always a pretty heavy hands-on endeavor that if you want to make sure it's successful, you got to make sure you're present. But at the same time, in order for us to continue to grow, looking at refining systems, operations, and just trying to increase guest count year over year for every single location that we've got.
Gotcha. And so with 8 locations and a food truck, been around since 2004, how was the company started? Like, what's the origin story behind this? Did it start in a food truck? Did it start in a kitchen? What's the origin story behind the organization?
Yeah, so it originally started in 2004, kind of as an 11th hour necessity. So Larry Abdo, who's the chairman of our board, he owned the building that our first location went into, and he had a burger concept teed up, and they backed out right before they were supposed to begin their build out. Locally, another burger joint had closed, who he had networked with as well, the owner of that, and he decided to reach out to him and say, why don't we start a burger concept together? So that's Phil, our director of food and beverage, who's still also helping us run the day-to-day of MyBurger, and Larry, who's still the chair of our board. They started MyBurger in 2004 as a Skyway location in Minneapolis, which, if you haven't been in Minneapolis, we have these little rat tunnels that connect all our skyscrapers in downtown so that you don't actually have to go outside in the bitter cold of winter. So it's on the second floor of all of the office buildings in downtown. You're able to walk across the street without actually going outside. But it's filled with retail and restaurant spaces for people to grab breakfast, lunch, or dinner, when they're downtown in the office.
That's neat. Yeah, a guy like me who's not from Minnesota, from the South, it kind of feels like a foreign concept. But I can see where that would be a great place to open up a business, because there's going to be foot traffic there, 6 months out of the year potentially.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic location. Obviously, the pandemic's created a little bit of a curveball that we've had to deal with. We went from, one of our busiest stores operating Monday through Friday lunches to not being able to be open for a couple of years at that location. But beneficially, we had grown at that point to have a much larger footprint. That store is now back up and running, and we're excited to have it open.
So who would you say is the target audience? I know there's a focus geographically. So what does that look like to you, and what are the plans to grow geographically as well?
Yeah, so the target audience is always difficult for us because we're burgers, and burgers are ubiquitous, right? Like, kids, young, old, rich, poor, everyone loves a good burger. And that's kind of where it makes it tough for us to market in that sense, and that we're trying to hit everybody. But what we've really focused on is just, instead of focusing on everyone, it's really the hyper local. So in the Twin Cities, people from Minnesota really appreciate the local aspect. And as we continue to grow, we really just focus on the neighborhoods around us and try and build a fan base that has grown with us. So we've seen, as we continue to increase our unit count across the Twin Cities, we are able to see people grow and say, oh, you know, I went to college at the University of Minnesota and I went to your store there multiple times, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, and now you have a location near my house out in the suburbs in Eden Prairie. We're loving that you're here. But being able to increase through word of mouth, but also just public awareness. So a lot of our marketing efforts are pushed into the neighborhoods that we're around, but also we're targeting the areas we want to go to, which we believe the Twin Cities has a carrying capacity for us somewhere between 12 and 15 locations. And at that point, after we hit about somewhere in there, 12 to 15, depending on where we're located specifically, we'll look to the outstate region, meaning greater Minnesota, maybe some parts of Iowa, some parts of Wisconsin. We're local family owned and locally run. So any distance that we would have, I would want myself and my team to be able to get there quickly. So people always ask, hey, can you bring this concept to California? Can you bring it to Texas? At this point, we're not as excited about that, just due to the fact that being able to drive to a location and see the staff and get to know them and know their names has been a key aspect to really our success as a company so far.
Sure. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. There's a place here in San Diego that I know only has one location. I've been telling everyone about it because they do deliver a good product and they're very, very nice in there, which is, I think, going to be key. And like, especially for you being hyper focused in the neighborhoods that you guys are in and marketing to those neighborhoods and also potentially ones around them, you know, what would you say is kind of like the secret sauce, pun intended, I guess, that, you know, why do customers, you know, choose you over, you know, other burger joints popping up? You know, just kind of curious to hear like what your thoughts are there.
Yeah, so my go-to cop-out answer is always going to be, you know, I'll let you come and try and you can tell me. But the reason behind that is because in restaurants, I don't think there's one specific way you can say, this is exactly how, you know, we're going to convert new guests into longtime customers. For us, it could be any different aspect. It could be the food. So we want to make sure we have the freshest, most quality ingredients, but on the same time, we really put a huge focus on the hospitality aspect. So being in the Midwest, most Midwesterners very much care about being thanked and having a genuine interaction at the register. And we believe if we can teach every cook, cashier, and dishwasher to actually care about what they're doing, our guests will feel that and they'll come back. So my head of training and development has come up with a saying that we've been using pretty much everywhere is, if you go to a steakhouse and you get $100 steak, you're going to expect $100 service. But when you come into our burger joint, you get a $10 burger, but you get that $100 service, and the person giving you that service actually cares about you having a good experience, you're gonna feel wowed and you're gonna want to come back.
Yeah. I mean, the simplest thing I feel like someone can do, if it is kind of this fast casual experience where, yeah, maybe just I'm popping in, popping out. But if I can, you know, get a smile, like something as simple as that, like when they're giving me, you know, an extra ranch or ketchup or sending me on my way, like that's something that, like, I don't know, that's something I notice. And something that, like, when you see that, it's like, okay, this person actually likes working here too. And they're treated well, because if not, they wouldn't be smiling. So I feel like that's something as an outsider that I can appreciate a little bit.
Absolutely. That's been key to our success so far, and something that me and my team try and champion personally, because we believe it'll go through the entire ranks if we actually believe it and live it, as we're trying to push it out to really every single guest.
Yeah, they might even see you on the line too.
I would like to tell you that isn't common, but it's a passion of mine as well. And everyone, myself and all of our home-based team members, or our corporate team, as we call it, we are all required to know how to do that and get on the line and make sure, because we believe it's important that, you know, if a cook looks at me and I say, hey, you know, we got to do this a little bit different way, and he's going to go, can you show me? I'm going to go, yeah, here you go. And that's not me being flippant. It's me wanting to show the right way and be able to show that, yes, we care about putting out every single product.
For sure. So what's the, you know, as the director of ops, I know you're doing a lot, from, you know, being on the line to making sure that we have bodies in the restaurants and making sure, like, overseeing marketing's push. But like, what would you say, you know, today, 2023, you know, ending Q1, what is the biggest challenge that you guys are facing right now as a business?
Biggest challenge right now is finding the right people. And I say that as that's probably been the biggest challenge for a long time. But in 2023, that's a different problem than, say, 2020, when we were saying finding the right people and we just hope we can find them. Right now, we're looking for people who are committed to building us, not just, a couple dollars year over year. It's helping us grow unit count, implement new systems, finding the right people who are excited to take on the challenge so that they can free myself up to focus on system development and site selection. And that way we can increase another unit, because our biggest challenge right now isn't a financial limitation. It's really a people capital that we're trying to find. If we can find the right people to bring in that are excited to gain the right experience and develop the right background for themselves so that they can be dangerous enough on their day-to-days, then they can help move mountains really one stone at a time.
Yeah, I mean, whether you're in finance, software, or fast casual, it's always a people thing, right? And everyone has their own way of addressing the resource and scaling perspective. So it's a good problem that you have, because you're trying to scale. So how are you, retaining employees? Like, what are the types of, and what are, I guess on top of that, like, what are the types of people you guys are going to try to have working, by your side with you?
How do we retain? The biggest thing is through culture. We're actually in the midst of a codification, if you will, of our culture. It's one of the major projects I'm trying to head up is trying to, we call it burgers for a better day, right? It's like burgers with a purpose. We're not putting a man on the moon. We're making burgers and fries every single day. But I think there's an honest brilliance in that, where you can say, you know what, people come in and they enjoy nourishing their body with something. And I think that's a cool aspect, that someone comes and says, I want to eat here and eat your guys' food. But with that, we've come to find the biggest key to success on our end for retention and finding the right people is developing that culture of respect, top to bottom, and making sure that everyone feels welcome in their day-to-day work. And then on top of it, there's a lot of small incentives and just making sure, we're not bending over backwards for anyone. It's a two-way street. Work is work, otherwise it'd be called fun. But trying to make work a little more enjoyable, as opposed to just trying to brand it as like fun and lie to everyone. It's like, no, we're here to work, and we're going to cook, and we're going to clean, and we're going to do our day-to-day. But at the end of the day, you can have fun while doing that. Now, how I teach one of my managers to be able to teach that to their cooks and cashiers, I mean, that's kind of the trick, and that takes a while. But we find the right person who wants that atmosphere around them. I think that's unique in the restaurant space right now. I know that every one of our staff members could get the job they have today at any one of my competitors, across the street, down the street, wherever. So giving them a reason they want to be in our restaurant and a part of our team, I think, is the key aspect that we have to keep top of mind all the time.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, culture, respect, and trust. Again, it translates across industries. It doesn't have to be just, in the food industry, but that's definitely one where you want to trust the people who are making your food too, right? But it definitely starts at the top for sure. And for you guys to have that as kind of that core, principle or core value that you have, in addition, obviously the quality ingredients, right? Like I can see why it'd be, an interesting place to come live, work, and eat at as well. And it all trickles down. But thinking about getting people into the restaurant, I'm sure like that's something that you're always continuously focused on as well. So like you mentioned a little bit about kind of like micro marketing and focusing really specifically in the neighborhoods that you guys are in as well. So, I assume that's part of your marketing strategy. What else are you doing to like educate, prospective customers as well from a marketing perspective?
We're trying everything. I mean, we've got 2 dedicated full-time people that really make it their life's mission to develop a strategy, not just for the whole company, but also to every unique unit that we have. I mean, we have 8, so it's not so many, but a lot of it comes down to individual marketing pushes to email lists that we have for those set stores. old school mailers that go to people's addresses that they live within, 2 to 5 miles away of our location to try and say, hey, come in. And we feel confident that if we let someone try our product mostly for free, that they're going to come back because we feel confident that our product stands on its own. But also on the greater scale, we've tried some Twin Cities. So for us, greater scale would be some billboard action. We have tried to get some positive press pushes going for the local press. We actually recently were rated by MSP Mag as one of the top 50 restaurants in the Twin Cities, which is fantastic because we were there with all of the fine dining establishments, and that was cool to be, for them to recognize us as one of the top restaurants in the Twin Cities. And we were the only chain really that was included in that group. We were also just recently listed on QSR's top 40, which is a good list to be put onto. And our president and CEO was actually just named Minnesota Business Journal's top 40 under 40 as well. So doing some press pushes on that side for the, call it macro, and then on the micro, it is a lot of smaller pushes, and even just focusing on doing bounce backs, putting cards into boxes for people who are heading out the door to take it to go, to say, hey, here's a buy one, get one for your next visit too.
Yep.
Give another reason to come in and try and increase the loyalty and the habit for someone to say, wow, this is not just good one time. These guys deliver every single time the same product. It's fantastic. And they do it with the staff having a good time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My favorite sandwich place, they do stuff like all the time, whether that's, hey, free or 10% off, you deliver before, or get delivery order before like 11 a.m. before the lunch rush, right? Like little things like that, or, $1 off, next week on a sandwich, right? Like it's, in seeing that come into my email and not thinking like, oh, it's spam, I'm not going to click on it. Actually like wanting to open it and see what you have going on is a great way to continue to promote and push, because I do think I go there at least like once a week. And it's usually, yeah.
And that's a tough balance to toe, is we can't pound inboxes too often because that's important real estate in our guests' headspace. Because if we do end up spamming someone too much, they're not going to find us as a brand that they want to be a part of, like your sandwich place. I mean, you enjoy it, and when you get those emails, you enjoy being reminded to want to go back there, and you might even go in and not even use the coupon, but it might drive you in just in being top of mind and saying, oh yeah, you know what, I should get that for lunch today.
Yeah. It's you're right. There's definitely a balance to it where it's overwhelming, but also, I look forward to it, right? I don't want to go there every day either, right? I don't want to enjoy it too. So if I can enjoy it with like a little bit of, incentive behind it too, that's a win-win for someone like me. How did you guys grow and scale like during COVID? Like, was there a big adoption to like food delivery services? Like, were you doing that before? Like, how was the adoption of like that type of technology?
Yeah, so before COVID, we used a more outdated POS system, and we had a bunch of tablets ringing at our registers for all of our delivery systems. Thankfully, we had those delivery systems set up. We had all the major players, and that was useful on our end. But with COVID, it very much put a time crunch, and the capital investment that was required was immediately seen in a different light. And I decided to pull the trigger and implement the system myself. So I worked with, we jumped into Toast actually, and we chose Toast simply because they were best in class at integrating with the online ordering systems. So everything from our own online ordering platform, as in if a guest comes to our website and they want to order for a certain location at a certain time, their platform is solid for that. But also integrating with all of the delivery partners, because we were doing about 90-10 split in store, right at the register, taking your order, you're taking it either to dine in or take it to go, about 10% of that online. It's about flipping overnight to about 90-10 the other way. We had no dine-in, everything was shut down. Most of the restaurants and bars were shut down. So us being fast casual and being able to do counter service was a blessing in disguise, in the sense that it forced a lot of people into our restaurant because they wanted to eat out, they wanted a good product, and they found that we could deliver on that. But it was tough on my staff when there's 5 tablets ringing constantly, and you're trying to take care of everyone, but it was just too much. So we decided to invest in a new piece of technology, and it's been fantastic in that sense. It's a good platform for us to continue to grow, and that was really a launch pad for us, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear great things about Toast. Company that I worked with is solely works with Toast POS and Toast systems because of the way it integrates with all the systems that you use for food ordering and delivery as well. So how did that process roll out go? Like I'm assuming it wasn't like overnight and a larger enterprise type process, it feels like probably. How did that go?
Yeah, that was about 2.5 months of my life where I was physically going on site and either assisting or personally doing the install of the hardware with their techs, managing the menu on that sense, and making sure everything got rolled out, literally making sure the tickets are printing perfectly in the kitchen, up front, making sure everything looks right. But obviously that's a one-time deal where it was worth the investment on my time to make sure it was done right. Yeah. Now that our stores are set up, we've opened 2 locations since then. And obviously implementing in a new store, all that's kind of an afterthought after it's become old hat in that sense.
Gotcha. Yeah, sounds like a pretty hands-on approach, high bandwidth upfront for a lot less time on the back end after that.
Oh yeah. That's our previous system was standalone to every location. I mean, I had remote software to be able to pull reports. I would have to literally remote into every single location or have someone on my team do it. And it was very labor intensive to get basic reporting. Having it all centralized in the cloud has been fantastic. And then not just the delivery integrations, but everything on our back end to our accounting system, all of our journal entries, everything, our payroll system, everything is now integrated to where it's connected instead of having a human export data and then upload it into a different software to be able to process it.
Do you think COVID accelerated that for you guys? Like, were you headed there anyways, or just kind of curious?
It did, in the sense, especially for the POS, which is kind of the core of any restaurant, right? It's the heart of it. It's making, not just it's my cashiers ringing up an order for a guest and then informing the kitchen of what that order is and how they make it so that it can be made to spec to the guest. But like I said, all of the reporting tools, analytics, all the marketing aspects that we talked about, all of it runs through our POS in some way, shape, or form, whether that's either the email push going out or the redemption process at that register, right? So we send an email out and it's like, okay, well, that's got to tie to the register on that promo code. And yeah, I think it did accelerate it. Like I said, we were not looking at that as a need. We knew it was on the horizon, but it rapidly came upon us with COVID. I would have said it was probably 3 to 4 years out in our growth plan, and it became we need to look at this month right now, probably.
Right. So it sounds like from what I've been hearing, like from your perspective, there's obviously a push, for growth, continue to see if you can open up stores in different neighborhoods and locations there in the area. Obviously there's, you guys had a think about the technology that you're using and making that scalable as well as you continue to grow. And the last thing that I hear is just from a people perspective, ensuring you have good people coming in, they're sticking with you so you can continue to grow and scale. So those are what I'm hearing from your perspective are some of the challenges that you guys are facing. Is there something that you guys are looking to celebrate potentially like a year from now? I know 20 years is right around the corner. There's some metrics that you have for growth as well. So love to kind of hear like what's on your purview as you guys get to 20 years.
We get to 20 years. I think a year from now, we'd like to celebrate having 2 more locations, get to 10. I think 10 is a fun number. But at the same time, I don't want to say more important or less important than that, because the growth of new locations is important for us. We want to make sure that our current stores are also taken care of. So restaurants need to be maintained and they need to be cared for. And we need to make sure that we're not ignoring our current locations, current neighborhoods, current guests to, sacrifice it for something new and shiny. We've always talked about controlled growth and the concept of not trying to go out of control. You see it all the time. Restaurants, they open 30 locations in your state, and within 5 years, there's 4. and that's not us. We'd much rather go at a slower but steady pace where we continue to open locations and our locations are happy and healthy with our guests. And we believe that if we take care of our staff first, they'll take care of the guests, take care of our vendors. All of these things will lead to profits, and then our shareholders will also be happy at that point too. But it really has to start at that ground floor of taking care of every single guest and really every single employee that we have, and then the rest will come after.
Yeah, I like that approach. It makes a lot of sense. Kind of the origin story from what you shared to where you are now. It does sound very organic. I need a burger in my life right now. So as we wrap things up, Patrick, look, is there anything else that you want to share? Anything you think our listeners need to know about you or the company that we haven't covered? Feel free to tell us where your restaurants are, where's the food truck going to be, where they can find you on socials. That way the listeners in the area can kind of get to know you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. On all of our socials, we're at MyBurger USA, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and we're located in the Twin Cities. So Minneapolis, St. Paul area, we've got 8 locations and a food truck. Our food truck it only operates seasonally, as it does get a bit cold for a food truck here. We've got 3 locations in Minneapolis, 1 in St. Paul, and then a few others in the surrounding suburbs. So if anyone's in Minneapolis, you can check out a top 50 Minneapolis-St. Paul restaurant that also happens to be a quick service burger chain, which I think is kind of a unique factor that you won't find in a lot of places in the Midwest.
Love it. That's awesome. Yeah, next time I'm up there, I will definitely be coming in, letting you know, Patrick. So I appreciate your time today, and I definitely enjoyed the conversation, getting to know you and getting to know what you guys have going on there. And I appreciate you being a part of the Business Ninjas podcast.
Fantastic. Thanks, Max, for having me.
Thanks, Patrick. That wraps up another episode of the Business Ninjas podcast. Everyone have a great rest of the day.